Okay, I wasn't going to do this, but this is part 4. But I think we owe it to Mr. Dragon here to finish him off. Don't you agree? I think we do. I think we do indeed. Now then, we're going to see if we can finish off some of these scales up here. We've got a slightly different colour green, because we want to make it look a bit different, if we can. Because these things, these designs really are all about colour. Because I tend to turn these into greeting cards, which are a great deal of fun for people. Now, what we find with these, I think what we'll do, I think this green will look quite good. In fact, we'll better do that in a minute, I think, because we're going to put our hand straight on that, aren't we? And we don't want to put our hand directly onto wet ink, because that way, madness. Now, we're gonna leave a white line on this edge, and we're gonna do the same. Leave a bit of a gap under here, because we're gonna get the reflection from this light coming up under his chin. So where we've got the pencil lines at the moment, you see. Now, I did find this gadget, and I don't know what it is quite, but it's got an eraser on it, which is kind of handy. Now, we're going to rub this pencil line out from underneath his chin, and I purposely didn't actually do a black line there, because what we're going to do, you see, the light will hit that underneath that chin probably more than anywhere else. So we don't really want anything under there, because you wouldn't see a line. You wouldn't really see the chin, because it would just blend into the light that would be there. But we're going to put a bit of yellow under there. We're going to blend up just slightly. You don't have to worry about it being too accurate there and there. And even though we've already done this one in green, we're going to put this bright yellow probably all the way down this leading edge of this dragon's belly plates, tummy plates, belly plates, stomach plates, depending on what you want to call that. So there, but then we got that done. I think what we're going to do for a bit of fun is, in amongst these, which will be predominantly green scales, we're going to pop in of that big one there, yellow, just to add to the design a bit. Now, I quite like this green that we're using, so we're going to continue using that. on these scales here, because I think it's quite nice. It's like almost like an aqua green, and it contrasts nicely with the slightly duller green that we've already used. And if we do one or two up here, like it, I think. Now, let's get one of these done. And then we'll get one of those done. And maybe that one in the same way. I mean, this is up to you, entirely up to you when you do if you do a dragon. You could do whatever you want when it actually comes to colouring it. I mean, you don't have to use these pens. You could use pencils just as well. But we don't mind if we leave a bit of white showing on some of these, because that adds to the light source, I think. Because what we're going to do anyway in a moment, we're going to highlight some of these with some other lines and that, give it some depth, you see. But because these scales aren't actually just flat, they do have a slight curve to them, and of course they would be slightly thick. They wouldn't be just sort of thin scales, because they're there to protect the tender flesh underneath. Now, I think we're getting somewhere close to it now. Now what I'm going to do, I think, I want to add a bit of colour into this. I want to use an orange. So we got like an underneath sort of effect on these scales. So you're going to have to forgive me, because I'm going to spin this picture around a minute, and I'm going to come into these lines here and here with this orange marker. You can't call it a brush pen, really. A lot of people use these as fashion designers for designing their cars. They are handy things to have. I mean, if you want to have a go with them, I would recommend it if you can afford it, because they are quite good things. I'm not sure I could afford to buy any new ones at the moment, but I certainly will in the future, hopefully when we get back to doing some business, because like I said, they are what they are. Now, I think that looks quite good. We're getting there, and I think what we're going to do is these little back scales going down the back here. I think we're going to put those in orange, because this orange colour is making me quite thirsty, actually, funny enough, because it's such a vivid orange. Some of the colours you get are quite delicious. I like the word delicious. I use it a lot to describe these colours. Right, then there we go. Now what we're going to do, I think, with the rest of these scales, we had to get there in the end. We had to put some grey in, I think. Now we're going to use a sort of fairly pale grey to do this. because most of the dragons I've met, scales to the eye. I mean, I have 3 that live in my house, as you know, and their scales change colour quite regularly, and they, not quite to the extent of a chameleon, but they do certainly change. Now you're going to do a bit of darkness in here, because this would be the nostril of the nose, don't you know? But they do shimmer, I suppose is the word you could say. Quite beautiful, actually. And I've got some knocking about because they do actually shed their scales, rather like a snake sheds its skin. But these fellas are a bit more, I mean, snakes, all terrible scruffy old animals they are. They shed their skin, they just leave it anywhere, just move on. A bit like fly tippers is the old snake. No regard for anybody else whatsoever. But dragons are a little bit more, well, apart from anything else, they don't really want anybody to find out what their scales are made of, because that way madness lies, and they could be in all sorts of trouble, because although on the whole they are at the top of the food chain, there are the occasional knight that will come along, or even wizard, and give the old dragon a bad time. So they don't want anybody to find out any of their weaknesses. Now, we have like a lilac colour here, which is quite nice. We're going to add in here in a couple of places, just to finish it off. Now, I don't know about you, but I think we got quite a smart looking dragon here, and I'm quite pleased with how he's turned out. I haven't done one of these for a year or two, because I move on to different things all the time. Always up for trying something new. Because I made, as you know, some of you that see my Facebook page, gonks we've been making for the market stalls, and they were great fun. I enjoyed doing them, but because of the shutdown, we had to put all that type of thing on hold. Now there you are, that's looking pretty good, I think. And that's not in any way boastful, you know. Well, I suppose it could be interpreted like that, but I think what we're going to do, we're going to put some of this purple in here, on these here wings. Lilac, I would think this is more lilac, isn't it? Again, this is why I like using these brush pens when you're doing these sorts of designs, because the colours are so vivid, and if you're careful and keep it within the lines, you can end up with some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful pictures. Now, like I said, this is more of a poster type design, so you wouldn't tend to sort of do too much. Now, I haven't used these pens for a while, and you can see what's just happened, which is annoying, is that because they probably wanted a good shake, and I haven't given them a good shake before I've used them, we've had a bit of a flood come down on there, which is a bit annoying, and it's bled out into the green. Now, we're going to have to try if we can, to get rid of that. Now, the only way I can think we're going to be able to do that is we'll add a bit of this green into here, and maybe a bit up this side. And if we do just a hint here, because this is where we come into the realms of a mistake or something like this happens. You can use all the tools that we try off with this quite nice, I think it's called olive green. And we're going to run up against this edge and see if we can't disguise that just a fraction, so we don't have that, so it's still green, it still blends in with what we were doing. And see, that's kind of worked perfectly, hasn't it? And we keep that edge straight as much as we can. We do the same the other side of them, because we know these colours are going to work, because purple and green. Oh, check out nature. That's where you find out your colour matches. Purple and green, quite delicious. There we are. Now we're going to do that, and if we just run up a little bit of green, even though this one didn't bleed out, we can give it the effect that, oh yes, we meant to do that. That's part of the design. Doesn't work in all cases, but I wasn't going to sacrifice the picture. Now we've got this far with it and it's nearly finished. That would be madness, wouldn't it? How are we doing for time? Oh, we're all right. Right. Gonna get this fella finished. Now then, what we want to do, I think, before we do anything else, is do these other spines down the back. Now I think that's the colour we're going to use for those. This sort of creamy ivory colour, I think that would do it. Yeah, that will be alright. Because we want a bit darker colour, because it's going to be around the back, maybe a bit more in the shade. You could always, if you wanted to, lighten the underneath a bit to give the effect of the light. You basically, when you're doing these, well, any picture, you kind of work out your light source, which direction the light is actually coming from. Now, I think what I might do, because these have bled out up here a bit, is we might see what happens when we just run a bit of this darker colour along this ivory colour. Now, that is something I didn't know was going to happen, I have to be honest. So that's something for you to look out for if you use these pens and you don't use them for any length of time and you just store them. And these would have been stood up. I think basically, I'm not quite sure what the makeup of these inks is, ingredient wise, but you can see if I show you the inside of the nozzle there, that they do tend to, liquid ink that is inside does tend to separate from the pigment, and you get that quite annoying, disastrous in some cases runoff. I've had it with there's a blue pen here somewhere that does it all the time. But like I said, I kind of forgot. So what we might have to do, give them a bit of a shake. Not that I think it'll probably make much difference. I don't know. Because it's not like an aerosol with a ball bearing. I mean, it's the same possible effect you get that they've separated. And you get that liquid runoff that is going to cause you problems. Now, I don't know what colour. You could do this any colour you want. But I thought we might have like a nice light pinky colour that's going to sort of blend in quite nicely with the yellow lighting we've got put at the front. And don't worry if you don't go right to the back, because again, you would have sort of light catching. And quite often, well, always really, if you can, as much as possible, when you're doing, whether it's a watercolour or pen and ink, use the white of the paper. If you need to have a white source, dot, line, because that's the purest white you're going to get. You can get white watercolour paint, Chinese white, but once you've gone over it, it doesn't really work terribly well. Acrylic will work. Now, I use acrylic quite often with my watercolours because for certain effects, it's brilliant. Now, if I'm going to paint a river scene, a waterfall, or anything like that, I tend to use acrylic paint to do the rocks. Now, how I do it is practically very dry acrylic paint on the brush, not much water at all, if any, and just graze it over the paper so you get like a moral effect, and that will dry very quickly. So when you actually go over it with your watercolor wash, it gives you the effect of the stones under the water. You try that. I'll do a video sometime and show you what I mean properly. Now, I don't think I'm going to do a lot more to that, to be honest with you. I reckon that would do. Now, the only thing you could do, if you want to, you find your white rollerball pen and you can add a bit of highlight to these tiles, like I said, to make them stand out, so they're catching the light, so they look a little bit more sort of 3D effect. And all you want to do is just run across the top or down the side, just to give a hint of the white. The white doesn't run terribly well, so you can just do it around the edges a bit, like I said, in various places. Maybe a dot or two of white now and again, just to give that sort of sparkle of magic, you know, hint of light. And I think really, like I said, we may maybe put a little bit, follow the shapes around, maybe a bit there, and on these leading edges of these scales. And you see what I mean? That it's done, it's giving it that sort of bit more depth to things. And that's about it, I think. Put a bit maybe on the teeth, that's it, like that. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I've enjoyed doing it. And I'm going to probably do some more of these. And you can do all sorts again, like I do the cartoon dragons. You can do fire dragons, ice dragons, water dragons, all sorts of dragons. You name it, you could do a dragon with that title on it. So there we are. That's that design finish. Please subscribe to my page. That would be lovely. And I'll give this a quick signature. Don't worry about copying that signature to try and forge it to get into my banks or anything, because it's not the same signature that I use for my bank details. So it'd be a complete waste of time. Right then, like I said, please subscribe and hit the like tab. And I'll see you soon. Take care.